Kia ora koutou. Welcome to HR Chats with me, Te Radar, where we talk all things HR. Today, we are talking with Elizabeth McNaughton, CEO Asia Pacific of Hummingly. She'll tell you she's probably going to tell us very soon, her career has literally been a series of disasters. She's worked on disasters around the globe. She's led multi-million-dollar recovery programs for New Zealand Red Cross, was executive director at the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet, leading work to create learning legacies from the Canterbury earthquakes. Internationally, she's worked for Red Cross, Red Crescent Societies through Asia Pacific, and she's a Winston Churchill Fellowship recipient, a Leadership New Zealand alumni, an Edmund Hillary Fellow, a co-author of Leading in Disaster Recovery, a companion through chaos, and she joins us today. Elizabeth, welcome.
Kia ora. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, look, thanks for having us. We're recording this just at the beginning or mid-March, and already this, Elizabeth, it seems like it's been the longest year here in New Zealand with disasters one after another. My first question is, how do you get into this particular line of work? What led you into it? And then as we journey down the track, we're going to find out what you've discovered.
Yes, well, how we recover from disasters, the whole field of disasters, it's intense, it's fascinating, and it's the way that I care. I come from a long line of nurses. Almost every female in my family, in one way or another, is a nurse. But that's not my way of caring. And I came to realize that actually how we teach the skills to help people navigate life after disaster, it's my way to contribute. And it's something that's so needed in our world right now. You're so on point. Mid-March, and it already feels like so much has happened. And there is also so much on the horizon. So how do we help people navigate disasters, have the skills to build that fitness for challenge, so that we can navigate this new chapter in our world as well as we can? And yeah, so I'm all about that. And it's so amazing when we see the power of knowledge, we see the confidence that we can share with people, and we see actually that through this adversity, as painful as it is, in different ways we can grow. And we can grow as organizations, we can grow as people. And at Hummingly, we like to tip the balance towards growth, not burnout. And so those are the skills that we teach, and that's what we're all about.
Look, I guess when we think of disaster recovery, we immediately think of those initial things. If there's an earthquake, it's getting people out of buildings and then cities rebuilding. It's if there's a flood, it's getting the water out and redoing things. But it's that very long tail of that human journey, the people living through that adversity, as you say. And what I find fascinating about it, as you say, 70% of people will grow because of adversity. What happened? How do we get to that point? What journey do people need to go on to go from the tragedy of the immediate disaster through the adversity and to begin to grow? Where do we start?
It is a journey, and we often start, like you say, like with a sprint. Yeah, it's all on. We're in this like honeymoon phase, in this heroic phase where we come together, we support each other. You can see incredible moments of humanity where we do extraordinary things for each other. But then we quickly realize that actually this is a marathon that we're in, but we're exhausted by the sprint, right? We've burnt all this energy, this adrenaline leaves us, and we just feel exhausted. And so this journey, it's an exercise in how we manage our energy. And it's really important, as urgent as everything feels. We've got all of these tasks to do. What we see and what is really sad is that people focus just on these tasks, while they're fixing things, they're breaking other things like their health or their relationships. So it's really important to ask, what is most important to me? What do I need to protect? And what do I value? And what do I want my life to be? And these questions can really anchor us to focus on the things that are truly the most valuable, alongside the recovery and the fixing all of the practical things. And I think that's a really important thing to know on this journey, to set yourself up to grow from these questions.
Oh, and I was wondering, is it a little bit like, I was thinking about it the other day, is it a bit like the processes through grief, where you go through the things and then after a period you get to the really angry stage? So and I certainly saw people almost getting to that point. Is it a similar sort of trajectory? Talk people through from that moment, perhaps a disaster strikes. What is the common path that people or communities go through that leaders need to be aware of when they're looking at where they're at?
100%. And there are elements of that grief journey, absolutely. So when you're exhausted, right, you start up here at this honeymoon and this heroic phase, and then you start to come downwards. When the energy is depleted, you get ratty with each other. You get so frustrated, it kind of feels like you've got sand in your undies all the time, right? Like it's this frustration, because you can't get angry at a cyclone. You can't get angry at a flood. So you can get really angry and project that grief at others. And it's really important as a leader to understand that that projected grief is not personal. It is a reflection of where that person is at and part of the journey. And to just listen without judgment, without solutions, is really powerful. And it takes so much longer than anyone ever expects, and so knowing that and supporting, being prepared to resource and support people over time is really, really important, because you can really get to the dip, the bottom of the curve, where you feel really disillusioned. There's a lot of red tape. You might not feel confident or competent in your abilities, and this can reflect in the workplace as well, and that is a really normal part of this process. And when you're in that dip, when you're exhausted, when you're disillusioned, it's hard to believe what's coming next, right? Which is the potential for this growth. So as a leader, it's really important to hold both the pain of the current situation, but also the hope and the possibility for people. And that's a real art. So yeah, you've got this journey, and it's also really important to remember how hard it is for people for a really long time, because it's really common for people to feel forgotten really quickly. The media attention goes, the external support goes, and as a leader, you have to put in place support and teach people the skills to do this journey over time.
Yeah, I just think as you talk about that, there's almost two separate sides of this, isn't there? There are the leaders who are living in the communities they've experienced perhaps that disaster, that whatever it may be, and then there are those leaders of organizations who are external, who may come in and out, or may be looking to keep their organizations going from outside the physical area. What's the key differences for those leaders? I guess you want to start maybe with leaders who are outside of the zone. What do they need to be aware of?
Yeah, that is a really good distinction. So if you're a leader outside of the zone, you can be an incredible anchor line to the leaders inside the zone, right? You can be someone who can connect them to resources, someone who can listen without judgment. You can put the resources in place that people need, and you can just be that buddy and get alongside the leaders who are in the zone. And buddying people up is so powerful, because that leader outside of the zone is also learning what this disaster recovery journey is like for when it's their turn. And because of the world as it is now, it will be their turn soon. So it's this reciprocal relationship where they learn, but they also support. And having a buddy like that is incredibly powerful. The other thing that leaders can do is, I'll tell you a story that illustrates this point. My co-founder and I, Jolie Wills, we did Winston Churchill Fellowships. So we asked 100 recovery leaders around the world for their advice and their wisdom, both on leadership and on workforce resilience. And we were meeting this incredible leader in Australia, and I was like in awe of her. And we got a message, oh, sorry, you can't meet at the office, but she would still like to meet you at her home. And I was, oh, okay. So we went and met with her, and it turned out that she'd had a serious case of burnout. She was no longer able to lead her team. She was on stress leave. Sundays, she couldn't leave the house. Like, this was serious. And she leant in and she said, Elizabeth, do you know what the scariest thing about this was? And I was like, well, all sounds quite scary to me, but yeah, what is it? And she said, I think my team were 3 or 4 weeks behind me. It's like, oosh, right? Like, that was a moment for me. And I thought, well, we lead others to where we ourselves are at. And so then a powerful question for leaders is, where am I at and where am I leading others to? So the leaders outside of the zone, they can be an incredible role model of how to lead yourself well, look after yourself well, to ask these kinds of questions of people in the zone. And the best leaders we've seen in disasters are the ones that ask the right questions of the right people at the right time in the right way. It's like an art form. So they can ask insightful questions of their counterpart within the recovery zone to help them see things, but also to help monitor and support their resilience and well-being. Because like I said, we want to tip leaders towards growth, not burnout. So yeah.
Is there a because I'm guessing we've got really fantastic business as usual leaders, but the kind of leadership that you require in some kind of disaster is a very different kind of leadership. Do you get to sense sometimes leaders need to be able to look at themselves and think, this is not me. We need a specialist. We need somebody else. I need to step aside and allow someone in, or leaders who are good at that needing to sort of step forward and say, hey, look, I've got this. Where does that balance go? And what happens in organizations, I suppose, when that becomes the central issue?
Well, I think too, it depends a lot on where people are at. We've had years of really difficult cumulative stress with COVID, right? And other things. It's been huge. So you've got cumulative stress that then meets a disaster, which is acute stress. So it depends where you are at personally as a leader at that moment, and if it's the right moment for you to step into a world of challenge. And knowing that in yourself as a leader, if it's your moment or if it is better served by someone else in that moment, is really important. And it's a sign of maturity to know that in yourself. The other thing is we get a fitness for these types of events. And I've seen it a lot with leaders through the last 3 years, right, where they build an understanding of how to lead themselves well and lead others well through really tough times. And so if you can build this resilience and well-being practices within you, then you can become a stronger leader, a fitter leader for this through time. The sad thing is, if people burn out, We've lost that knowledge, we've lost those abilities, and there's the personal elements for the people, which is not okay.
Not okay. For those leaders who are on the ground, what should they be looking out for amongst their people? Not only with businesses, they'll also be involved in their communities, I'm sure. What should they look out for with the people around them, and whilst also what should they look out for in themselves and be aware of?
Yeah, it's particularly tough for leaders on the ground, right? Because they carry this in everything they do, right? Like you go to get your hair done, or you go to the supermarket, and this is the chat, this is the talk. It's all about disasters. And also, there's that connection and accountability to communities, which is so strong. So it's even more important that these leaders are really well supported. What I'd also say is to really know and understand your hotspots. So the things that were difficult before in an organization or in a person will become even more so. Yeah, disasters exacerbate pre-existing conditions. So really understand where those hotspots are and prioritize support there to really help people through, because you know already within your organization what is going to be stronger and what is going to need extra support. So yeah, really be aware of those hotspots, I would say, is really important.
What's the most difficult time for a leader? Where do you see, amongst all of the people you've spoken to, all of the places you've been, what is the most difficult time that people need to be really aware of? Is it once that initial, I guess, the hero phase has gone through and the media attention, there's that dip in there? Is that the most crucial spot? And how do people know, in a way, when they're in that spot?
Yeah. The most important thing for people to do is get a crew around you, get some people around you who can really support you, who you trust, who you can go to for advice, who you can be really vulnerable with, and think of them as your recovery crew, and get really intentional about putting that crew together. Because when you're in that dip, in that really tough spot where it just feels like you're just trying to wade through mud, and really simple things feel almost impossible, where you'll get really either upset or angry, perhaps regularly. These are all signs that you are reaching the very limits of your tolerance. And sometimes we can get so tunnel visioned that we lose perspective on ourselves. And it's this recovery crew that can help us to understand where we're at, to understand when it's time to really, you have to take a break now. And one of the key things to being able to grow from this experience is to be able to take some time to rest, to reflect, to process what has happened to you, and then you come back stronger. But if you are just working at the absolute limit of your tolerance without pause, that is when you can get into trouble. And that is where this recovery crew you put together for yourself is so, so valuable. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, look, you've spoken to, 100 more crisis leaders around this kind of thing. What are some of the key takeaways? Anything specifically that made you think, "Oh, I never thought of that," or actually these are things that when I'm in a tough situation or I'm talking to leaders, these are the things I really emphasize each time. These are similarities or whatever it may be that are central to disaster leadership.
Yeah. And so risk now is the dominant theme of our age. And so a key question for leaders at the moment, coming from this research, is, do you have capacity within yourself, within your teams, and within your organizations for whatever is on the horizon? because we can become so focused on what is here and now. And that might be the cyclone, it might be COVID, it might be financial issues, whatever it is, that we don't look ahead and prepare for what is coming our way. And in the world now, there is always something coming our way. And so asking this question helps leaders think, okay, well, how do I create an organization that is agile and flexible and that has the capacity to rise to the occasion, to rise to challenge, to learn from it, and to grow and become stronger? And this is possible. This is the possibility part of disasters. It is the best time to be able to demonstrate your organizational values. It is the best time also to be able to demonstrate care, right, and foster trust. There are many possibilities through this disruption, and for leaders to have an eye on those possibilities and lead in a way that makes them happen is a wonderful thing to see. But it does involve asking some of those really strategic questions.
Yeah. 70% of people will grow through adversity. What's the difference? What enables somebody to grow as a person, as a leader through adversity, and why? Because 70% versus the 30 who don't. Is there a commonality?
And the numbers vary. It depends on a number of things. Also, as I mentioned before, where you're at, where you come into a disaster has a big impact. Your history, what you've already been trying to work out in your life, has an impact. But also, like I mentioned, it's this ability, and it can feel so hard. Like, the harder it feels to take a break, the more you need to, but it feels really hard to change gear and just take that time to step back and rest and reflect and process, because that is how we grow from this. Like, it's the same with athletes, right? Like, if they have like a peak performance event, right, afterwards it's about resting, restoring, learning, processing, and coming back again. And that's how you pace yourself for a very, very long journey. And also, growth just doesn't like knock on the door and turn up. Like, you've grown now. Right? It's not like,
I wish it did. Then I'd know. I could
I know.
tick off my KPI.
And so often it's like, are you serious? Another growth opportunity? I'm done with growth opportunities. Like, these are really normal feelings. But this growth, it turns up because we do ask ourselves these existential questions when a threat comes our way, right? Like, what is most important to me? What do I need to protect? And these can create this kind of like bothersome feelings in us sometimes, but actually it's through thinking about these things we actually can reimagine or redesign aspects of our lives. The people that come around us strong and support us, our relationships can become stronger, which is amazing. Or we can learn new skills. Yeah, we can learn how to support others. We can learn how to lead others through grief. We can learn so many things from these events that shape us. Yeah, these are life-shaping events.
And as I say, it's hard for people who aren't in that situation. That it's not survivor's guilt, I suppose. For people coming out of an area where there has been, I remember with Christchurch, when Christchurch happened, it was devastating for people in Christchurch in a way. It was business as usual for the rest of us. I experienced it just the other day. It was the first day after 3 weeks they were out of their little community, and there was a culture shock going on. When people are coming out and back into, I guess, business as usual world, what should we who are in that world, what should we be really careful of, and what should an organization be doing to ensure that it's, I suppose, it's a welcoming and caring space for people who have undergone something that we can't comprehend?
Yeah. one of the most powerful things is to listen, and listen in a way with free of judgment, free of fix-its, yeah, and just really listen well, because listening is doing something. Yeah, people need to, if they want to, this is express themselves, and that helps them make meaning of the situation. It helps them process what has happened to them, and it helps them find insights for themselves. And this is doing something incredibly powerful. So that's something we can all do. The other thing that we can do is not make assumptions that we do know, and to deeply understand the context, understand the situation on the ground, and to use this as an opportunity to upskill your people across the country or across the organisation in how to build this fitness for challenge, yeah, so that you are constantly strengthening your capacity as an organisation to, one, support this event and the people there in the right way, but also to prepare for other events in other parts of the country is really important. And the other thing is just to take a flavour of understanding and kindness, yeah, because you don't understand what it's like unless you have been through this experience. You know, I kind of think of it like when I had a baby. You know, a lot of people were giving me advice and, oh, this and that and this and that. Until I had that baby, I had no idea, actually. The baby came and I was like, wow.
They're a great metaphor, babies, on a number of levels. Hey, you will have been to places and seen some things. Do you have any little tips for your own personal resilience? Anything, are you cognizant of a behavioral change, a mindset change? What do you do to keep yourself going in a situation like this in a leadership position?
Yeah, I have a whole lot. I'll give you a couple. When you are, you know, having these difficult conversations, and as you pointed out, they're often, there's a lot of grief and loss can be involved in these conversations, a lot of frustration. You have to think about how you manage that as a leader. And so, you know, with the cyclone, for example, I bought myself like an awesome pair of sneakers, like, yeah, they're great. And I thought, okay, these are my cyclone sneakers. So each time I have a cyclone conversation, do cyclone related work, I'm wearing these sneakers. And then at the end of the day, I put the sneakers away in my wardrobe, and all of the things that I've collected during the day in my mind are stuck to my sneakers. And then I take them off, I put them away, and then I am Elizabeth at home again, you know? So they can be sneakers, it can be a uniform, it can be like a spacesuit that you think of yourself wearing in your head that you then take off. But that's just a simple tip for keeping all of feelings on the outside. And I find that really helpful. And I have best disaster crew. Like I have amazing people around me who are just tremendous. I'm so grateful for.
Brilliant. Hey, I'm going to put you on the spot as we finish. Final question. It's been a great chat. What's the single most inspiring thing you think you've ever seen in a situation over all the years where where you've just seen something you thought, boy, wow.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen many.
I have. That's part of the privilege of this work. I was in the Philippines after a huge cyclone, like largest to ever hit kind of cyclone. And we just pulled up to pick up some supplies. I was with the Red Cross at the time, and I looked out the window, and amongst the devastation, amongst the chaos, there was a dad giving his little son a bath in a bucket. And they had, lots of suds, and he was tickling him, and the little boy was just so joyful. And I just thought, wow, that's what it's all about. Amongst all of this, there are still these beautiful moments of humanity. There are these small rituals that we have with each other that we can maintain. It was just so beautiful to see that happening amongst this chaotic devastation. And I just thought those are the things we have to hold on to, and that is what is most important in life. And so I have a library. I collect these types of moments, and that helps me do my work, and that inspires me.
Brilliant. Hey, look, as I say, I'm sure you have seen things beyond the comprehension of many people, but as you say, this very long journey that people come back, we build back better, we build back stronger. Many people actually, and it's hard when you're in it to understand that there'll be all of this kind of growth from it, but leaders can help get that through. Elizabeth McNaughton, has been an absolute pleasure to have a chat from Hummingly. If you want to find out more about Elizabeth or about Hummingly, pop over to the website, hummingly.co, and you can check that out. But for now, I'm gonna go. I might go and buy myself some resilience sneakers. So that they can unpack. I'm like that with Jamie Oliver crockery, actually, as a sort of a totemic reminder of the importance of food and family. We've all got our own little tricks and techniques. It's been a pleasure, Elizabeth McNaughton. For now, from me, Te Radar, that is the end of this HR chat with me, Te Radar. We have any number of them that you can go back to on the website. Have a look at those. And if you're going through them and thinking, gosh, I really wish they'd talk to someone about something like this, let the staff at HRNZ know, and we will organise it. From me, for now, goodbye.